is GRC is where real security goes to die.
Oh, I obviously 100% disagree, but would love to hear more.
So really, I'm in that space now trying to figure out how to, build out some of these programs we're trying to put into our organization. And what I'm starting to see come in are things around um, not wanting to add certain types of devices to assets, third party devices to assets and things of that nature. And it's a huge deal, right? Because people have tons of servers in their organization. And so now they can put these exceptions in and they accept the risk of, if something happens to that, okay, oh well, because we didn't put the, defender and stuff on there. And so in some cases, it's almost as if it's a place or a way for organizations to do a checkbox and kind of sweep things under the rug, and not pay attention to it really going forward.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that is the problem with GRC. It's why I think GRC professionals are at risk in this future world where every CEO is being told by their investor or board to save money and do more with less. And I've said, and I said it just a couple weeks ago in Denver, that once the spotlight gets on security, if you're a GRC professional that's just doing paperwork, checkbox exercises, and don't actually have any tangible skills that are actually improving security, like the GRC profession got away with that for too long. And like now that spotlight's coming. So actually, I agree with you. I wish it wasn't true, I guess is my disagreement. I wish GRC wasn't where security went to die. And I guess it's part of like why I'm doing a lot of the stuff I'm doing is because I think GRC could be an opportunity. I used to give this analogy where whether you have a good doctor or a bad doctor or a good auditor or a bad auditor, it's really ultimately up to like the mindset around what you're going to the doctor for. If it's just I just got to check this box and hope I don't get any bad news, you might just not get any bad news. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with your body. And I think we've lost the plot in GRC that like if this should be a great way to evaluate what's really going on, but because it's turned into this sales and marketing tool, now the goal is how do I make it look good? Not how do I make it secure? So I'm with you. I think this is why I think GRC professionals need technical skills because I think in the future world where every person is going to be empowered with these AI tools, if you're a security professional with more skills outside of GRC, I'm gonna say, well, I can just like teach you or leverage AI to tell you what SOC 2 wants. You already have the skills to do all the work. Why am
Right.
I gonna have another person that's essentially just middleware, which is what a lot of GRC professionals are? It's like, so you have these assets. Oh, I can do an exception. That will get rid of them, and now that makes my life easier. And it's like, I think that world is gonna go away, and I hope it does because I think we've lost, and I think if it doesn't go away, GRC professionals should be very worried because what's the value that you're bringing if it's fake security? And eventually it's going to be harder, I think, to hide.
Yeah, no, that's a valid point. I like that you're forward thinking with that because it's like, where do we go from? So where do we go, right? If we get to that point, then what do we do? What's next? So how do we start now, or what should folks do that are listening, to prepare for something like this? Like, how do they become better engaging with security and making GRC more about security versus a place for things to go and die?
Yeah, I think that's this GRC engineering movement that has kind of popped up, and my book GRC Engineering for AWS that I just launched. Like the idea behind it is that we have shifted security left. Like there's a whole movement that happened, DevOps turned into DevSecOps, and now it's just a part of it. Like the CI/CD pipelines are doing a lot of work. They're grabbing a lot of information. We're doing a lot of infrastructure as code. We're doing a lot of things earlier on in the pipeline of building infrastructure and building applications. But for some reason, GRC is just still on the other end. Like, let me get a screenshot, let me get a Jira ticket. And it's like, hey, like the Jira ticket can say anything. That's not what's happening in GitHub for real. So like, I think the key are a few things. One, GRC professionals need to stop running from technical skills. I know GRC has been this place that you're told, oh, you can get in and be non-technical. sorry, that's over. You got to actually try to learn a little bit more about the cloud that you're evaluating. Don't go and ask your infrastructure team for the firewalls on AWS. They're called security groups. Like, we got to be able to speak the language. That's just the baseline. You got to pick up some technical skills. I think you have to learn a little bit of Python as a GRC engineer, because a lot of your job is taking data from one tool to another, transforming that so your auditor likes it. Python is purpose built to help you do that. And again, like, I think a lot of GRC professionals that I've mentored, I forced them earlier on in our journey to go learn the AWS CLI, because I need them to get in the terminal and stop being scared that this is this mighty scary thing. It's not that scary, I promise you. Once you start using it, you're going to be like, wow, this is a lot easier than I thought. And I don't have to go in the console and click around. Like, I can actually just type some commands and it does things for me. So I think it's like there's a mindset shift for GRC professionals to say, all right, I can't play around no more. I need to get technical. I think it's also an opportunity. That's like kind of the secret here, is that if you become a GRC professional that's technical, if you start to enter in this GRC engineering era and serve as a GRC engineer, where a lot of companies are opening up these GRC engineer roles, they don't really know what they want this person to do. You can really carve out your own path and do a lot of work. And I think the mindset has to be, how do you go live off the land? It's a concept I used to teach at the SANS Institute, where we tell our GRC people, don't go into a security engineer and say, implement this tool. They probably already have a tool that they're doing, and they've configured the hell out of that thing to make it match how they do their job. So figure out what tools they're using, and then say, okay, how can I potentially use this to help with my GRC problem? If you go in with the mindset, and I think GRC professionals don't do this, and my mindset has shifted because I've built products for the last 5 years. So I kind of started adopting like a startup product mentality. And GRC professionals need to look at their stakeholders like users. These are people that have needs. They are not in the business of GRC. They don't think, they think it's like, to your take, where security goes to die. So and they're, despite how much you think you're important GRC professional, their performance reviews has nothing to do with the audit evidence they're collecting for you. They're getting evaluated on something completely different. So how do you help them not have to waste time with you so that they can do their real job that they're getting evaluated on, paid for, and promoted for? And I think GRC professionals take themselves too seriously. They think other people care about their screenshots. And it's like, no, they don't want to be in this meeting. They want to do something else. And nobody, like, GRC professionals think like they're the most important person. It's like, we got to change that mindset of like, what tool do you use? How can I work with you to get the information out? And my goal should be, how do I make it to where you don't have to meet with the external auditors, where I can just collect information regularly and ask you questions if I see stuff. But again, we've shifted security left. So the information is there. Like, there's every company they're doing something. It may not be as mature as a Netflix or a Google. Everybody's doing something of shifting security left. It's not this isn't 5 years ago. So I think it's really, GRC professionals have to embrace those skills. Go have conversations outside of the audit. Don't just show up asking for evidence. Go find out how these people work. What's the vulnerability scan tool that they're using? And then if you find out, hey, my company's using Nessus, go learn a little bit about Nessus. Like, just like, we have to make that investment, in our own skills. And I think GRC we've gotten away with not doing it. And I think those days are over.
Nice. I like that. How do you share that? How do you tell that to leadership? Right? Like, okay, let's get the engineers together, but how do we
Yeah.
get the leadership buy-in on this too? Because that's always a hard thing to get folks to be like you said, I don't want to take the screenshot. I'm not interested in that. I don't want to.
Right.
So what do we have to do to make them more engaged and more involved as well?
I think we got to, like most things in security, we got to speak in the language that they understand, which is dollars. And I think about, again, just putting my founder CEO hat on, and then product leader at a big company hat on. Software engineers are very expensive. These people make
Yes.
a lot of money. So if you think about the hours, I'm paying them for 40 hours a week. And if
Mm.
I take 300 hours, let's say a year, because of different meetings and whatnot, and I multiply that out by their salary, we're in the millions of wasted effort. And then if you take those same hours, and a lot of engineering teams have these retro meetings where they can talk about the amount of time it took them to develop a feature. So you could very easily say, okay, I had 5 engineers in 10 meetings. And then if you know about context switching, not just the meeting is the time that they lost coding. It's the before the meeting and the after meeting. And to me, I used to tell my team, every meeting that you're pulling a software engineer in, you are costing the company a significant amount of money because the company's in the business of something else. They're building product. That's how all of us get paid. So I think if you just simply say, last year, this thing took 300 hours of engineering time. And I'm just talking software engineer. You start adding HR and all these other, like, you're talking a lot of money. And then you're like, if you allow me to do this GRC engineering thing and work with them, it's going to still cost some hours in this first year, but moving forward, they will not be bothered. You basically get a whole nother sprint or two of work out of your team because they're not bogged down. So I think like you know this too, but like most things in security, it's very hard to convince them of the risk, the security stuff that we're talking about. They don't care. They're like, all right, well, this compliance thing makes me money.
Right.
So I still need this compliance thing and I don't want it to go bad. So is what you're saying going to still make me money? Oh, you're going to make me more money. You're going to save me money. Okay, well, like now I'm interested. I think you got to speak those dollars and cents until you can like prove out the actual security value, but the dollars and cents are going to get you the investment, I think.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. I've been learning, bottom line is the revenue. It's how much money are you bringing me? What's the return on investment? And
Right.
one of those areas where it's like, okay, well, what's the ROI of me doing this work? So,
I think because of cyber, because of how much people talk about like get in cyber, make good money, X, Y, and Z, and then the job market being as tough as it is, I think people forget that this is capitalism and this is a transaction.
yeah.
Like the reason why all of us in cyber are trying to help people get in because we live good lives. We're like, hey, this is cool. I want to tell somebody about it. Like, can you come get in? This is you all should come get some of this. But it's like these companies aren't paying this type of money with these benefits and allowing us to work from home, et cetera, unless we're providing value. Like
Right.
it's a transaction. I used to always have to tell people this when they would like get emotional about not getting a job. I'm like, at the end of the day, you have to understand I'm a business. And I now have that mindset because I was in those seats where it's like, if I know a person versus just a random person, and I know I can pay this person X, I'm not gonna have to negotiate X, Y, and Z. Like it's an easier decision to do this. And it's not about you. It has nothing to do with you. You just have to boil it down to this is a transaction. And I think if people realize that, it's like, all right, now I flip my mindset from like I'm owed this because I'm in this industry to what am I doing to provide value? And once you start thinking that way, you get paid more. Like it's because you understand again, it's a transaction. So the more value you bring, the more money that somebody will value. It's literally you go to the store, you can go to Marshalls, you can go to TJ Maxx, you can go to Saks. Things are going to cost differently. It's what is the value that you're willing to spend on it. And these companies have a ton of money. To your point, it's about the bottom line revenue. If you can prove that you're going to help with that, there's some money to be made there. And I think people have to realize like it's a transaction. That's it. That's all it is.
Yeah, I'm learning that for sure. And I am learning that part of this. This
Yeah.
second half of my career as I go into